You want to move to Canada? Your CRS score determines your chances, or at least most of the time it does. But let me show you how it's been calculated. The CRS stands for Comprehensive Ranking System, and it is used for Express Entry. The number is something up to 1200, and it's based on age, education, work experience, language proficiency, and etc. By the end of this video, you'll learn how exactly you can calculate this number and how you can possibly maximize your chances of getting an invitation. So stay tuned.
To calculate the score, we simply type in CRS score calculator or CRS calculator. If we search that, the very first thing that pops up is the Canadian government website, the canada.ca website. We go in and just follow the steps, answer the questions as they have been asked. And this is quite easy, but you have to be really careful and read it thoroughly, okay? So very first thing, simple question: if you're married, if you've never married, you've been legally separated, divorced, common law, annulled marriage, widowed. If you have any question, if you have a specific situation and you're not exactly sure which one you fall into, do some research. Okay, it's like all the definitions for these, according to what Government of Canada considers, for example, a common law partner, is really important. So just don't assume that you're in a common law partner relationship if you have a girlfriend and you think that you fall into this category. Okay, so it's important to know the exact terminology here. But let's say we're filling this out for me, for example. Married, is your spouse a common law partner, a citizen or permanent resident of Canada? Well, now yes, but before no. So I would just say no. Most of the time the answer is no. Will your spouse or common law partner come to Canada with you? Well, yes. How old are you? I'm 34 years old. I put in 34. What is your level of education? This is highest level of education you have achieved, and it can be a Canadian degree, diploma, or certificate. It can also be a Canadian degree diploma. It can also be a foreign degree diploma, certificate. It's fine as long as you have done the educational credential assessment. And Canada considers that also, for example, a master's. If you've done a master's in India, if you've done a master's in China, if Canada considers that a master's degree, which most of the time it does, you have to, in order for Canada to recognize that, you have to do this EC or educational credential assessment. If you have done that, you can say yes, or if you plan to do it, you can still say yes and say what it is. For example, imagine that's a master's degree, and then it asks you, have you earned a Canadian degree, diploma, or certificate? Not all Canadian degrees, diploma, or certificate will give you points here, but most of them do. And if you've done your research before actually selecting the program, which I strongly recommend you to do, this is the part that you will probably get points for, okay? It cannot be just English as a second language or French as a second language program. You must not have studied under a word that required you to return to your home country. If you've been sponsored by, for example, government of Kuwait, for example, okay, and they require you to return to Kuwait, this you can't get points here, okay? But you must have studied at a school within Canada. Foreign campuses do not count. You had to be enrolled full-time for at least 8 months. And this is also important. Unless you completed a study or training program in whole or part between March 2020 and August 2022, which during which there was a specific regulation for the pandemic. Okay, you had to have been physically present in Canada for at least 8 months, unless you completed the study or training program between March 2020 and August 2022. Again, this is something that relates to the pandemic. So I would say yes. Okay, and then it says choose the best Answer to describe the level of education. It can either be a secondary high school or less, or a 1 or 2 year diploma or certificate, or degree, diploma, or certificate of 3 years or longer. For example, advanced diplomas. Here in Canada, they're considered in this part. Or a bachelor's degree, for example, or a master's degree, or a professional degree such as a medicine degree, for example, or a PhD. Okay, of any of these, which are at least 1 academic year. For example, a 1-year master's degree does qualify you for this. Okay, so I would select that because I pursued a master's degree in Canada. And official languages, now it asks me about the official languages. Now you might not have your official language ready here. You might plan to take an exam. You might think, okay, I will take the IELTS General, I will take the CELPIP or PT Core later. But here you have to put in yes. If you put in no, you just don't qualify. Okay, so you put in yes, and you think about what you can possibly get. Well, for English, there's CELPIP, IELTS, and PT Core. For French, there is TEF and TESAF. Okay, you can choose either. Okay, so I will say IELTS, and we say, okay, for example, I score 7 in speaking, 8 in listening, 7 in reading, and 7 in writing. This is CLB 8. And if you're not sure what CLB means, it means Canadian Language Benchmark, and it does not specifically, if you have, I would say CLB 8 does not specifically mean that in IELTS you'll get a band score of 8 in everywhere. It has a separate definition. But CLB 8 in CELPIP does mean you have at least 8 in all categories. Okay, so do you have other test results? Let's say no, but if you do, you can just select for TEF and TESAF and then your scores. And it asks you about the work experience that you have had in the past 10 years. How many years of a skilled work experience you have in Canada? In Canada, okay? It must have been paid and full-time, okay? Or equal part-time. And the meaning of equal part-time, it means that, okay, for 1 year, a full-time work means that you've worked for 30 hours a week and for 52 weeks. That would be 1,562, I think. 60 hours of work. Okay, you may have done it in 18 months. That's okay. Okay, you may, for example, you have worked 25 hours per week, and if you calculate all these, then it will they will take, for example, 15 months for you to complete that 1,560 hours. That still qualifies as 1 year of work experience. Okay, 1 year of full-time work experience. Okay. You must have been physically in Canada and working for a Canadian employer. Okay. This includes remote work. And skilled work is the tier 0, 1, 2, and 3 category job. We'll probably make another video about like what these tiers and NOCs means because they're really important. But if you're not sure, you can just go find your NOC here. That's pretty straightforward and easy. Well, let's say we have also 1 year of work experience in Canada, or let's say 1 year of full-time work experience in Canada. And you cannot, okay, there's one thing about that 1,560 hours is that you cannot count more than 30 hours per week. For example, you cannot say, okay, I worked 40 hours per week, so I would qualify as 1 year of full-time work experience in 9 months. Well, no, that's not how it works. You cannot count more than 30 hours per week, okay? And then it asked me about foreign experience. In the last 10 years, how many total years of foreign skilled work experience you have? Again, it could be full-time, 30 hours per week for 52 weeks, or the same amount of hours part-time. That still works, okay? In only one occupation, okay? In the tier category 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's say we have another like 3 years of work experience. This is really important in like increasing your score, and make sure to have this put in when you go ahead in this part. And it asks, do you have a certificate of qualification for a Canadian province, territory, federal body? Well, I don't. And you can search if you what are the things that are considered a certificate of qualification, but it's mostly for the skilled trades. For example, a certificate of qualification, a license that lets you to be an electrician in a specific province. That could be an example. Okay. It says that this is not a nomination. We'll get to nomination later on. But additional point, do you have a valid job offer supported by LMIA? Well, you're going to take out this LMIA 50 points soon, but for now it is, yeah, if you have a positive or neutral LMIA with a job offer, then you'll say yes and you'll get 50 points here. But in our case, it's no. If a nomination, I mean, is any of the provinces have nominated you? If they have nominated you, we would say yes, but most of the time they have not, so we would say no. Do you or your spouse or common law partner have at least one brother or sister living in Canada who is a citizen and permanent resident? It's important to note here, it does not. It is not just being having a brother or sister or having brother-in-law or sister-in-law who is a citizen or permanent resident. They have to also be presently living in Canada. Okay, so bear that in mind. And if yes, you would say yes. If no, you say no. I would say yes. And it gets to the partner part. Okay, what is your partner's education level? I would say, for example, a master's degree, and this also needs to be accompanied by a WES or like any other credential evaluation. And then asking, in the last 10 years, how many years of work experience does your partner have? In Canada, I would say again, yes. And did your spouse or common law partner take a language test? This is also important. If they've done a language test, let's say they have, and they have scored that CLB 9 that we were just talking about. Did I say this is CLB late? This is CLB 8 layer? No, this is CLB 9. And then we calculate the score. And it gives detailed information of like at each category, each point, or what are the scores that we got. Core human capital factors, we got 352, and we got that from age. From the age of 29 later. So if you hit 30, 31, 32, you just start to lose points, usually like about 5 points every year. Level of education, official languages, and Canadian work experience. The total here is 352, but that's not it. I also get 35 points from a spouse because of the level of education and first official language and the Canadian work experience that they have. That would be 35. And then there's this skill transferability factors that if you combine a bunch of things together, if you have, for example, some work experience and then you have a master's and then your English is also good or your French is good, this combination will will boost your points here. So that, for example, I got a total of 100 points for transferability, and then additional points for having a sibling in Canada and having studies in Canada. I'll get 45 points, and that would put me in 532. Well, obviously, this is really high points, and I put in a lot of things that a lot of people don't have. But this is how you can calculate it. But one thing that's important is that when you calculate it, you can go back and see how I can change any of these things. For example, my language score. How can I change my language score to boost my score? Some of the time, if you mess around a little bit, for example, instead of a CLB 9 in IELTS that requires you to have a 7 in speaking, 8 in listening, 7 in reading, and 7 in writing, for example, you score 6.5 in writing. This might or might not decrease your point drastically. Well, depending on that. Sometimes when you don't get the CLB 9 exactly at each category, then you don't get the transferability points, and then you'll lose, I don't know, sometimes, for example, 50 points just because half a point. in writing. Okay, so bear that in mind, that play around with this a lot so that you know where you are. And another more important thing is that when you calculate your score, it's really important to come at this page that I'm going to show you and see where you're at and what are the scores that are actually being that they're actually receiving invitation right now. That's also a very important step. Okay, because yeah, 532 is really high, but do I get an invitation if I enter the pool right now with 532? Let's see. We just say put in what we just put in Express Entry recent draws. That's what we go. Express Entry recent draws, and the first thing comes out is like the Canadian government website. We come check previous rounds. And then here we see all the previous rounds. Okay, what we're looking for Canadian Experience class. I'll make another video of telling you what Canadian Work Experience class is, what Federal Skilled Worker is, how we can be eligible for each of these categories. But this is someone pretty short. This is someone who has at least 1 year of work experience in Canada and some other things. But the minimum CRS score that was invited was 542. So I wouldn't get an invitation. You see, if I was in the pool with that number, I wouldn't get an invitation. But what you can do is say, okay, this is my thing, Canadian Work Experience, Canadian Experience class. Okay, let's see what are the scores that were that received nomination before. You see here, 539 is still pretty high. 547 is still pretty high. Still pretty high. Again, 539. Come back, you see 539, 509. Okay, you go back to September, yeah, they were pretty low. But because they used to draw a lot of people, 4,000. And then it started to like 500, 400, 400, 400. And then you might have an idea, well, if this is going to go down or no one knows. But what you can do here is go back to this page and try to see if you can increase your score, maximize your chances. Retake your English exam, or if you know some French, take a French test and try to get some point from your French. Okay, this was about showing you how to calculate your CRS score.
Calculate your score and let me know in the comments. And if you think this video is helpful, subscribe to our channel and send it. Share it with anyone who thinks that might be interested in moving to Canada. We're sharing a lot of content about moving to Canada. Thank you for watching. And again, my name is Rue, and I'm a regulated immigration consultant, and I'm here to help you through your immigration journey to Canada. Thank you for watching again, and have a great rest of your day.